Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We've got John J. Franklin for an edition two on the pod. He's CEO at World Pro Ski Tour. We're going to talk about this year's latest event in the sports world on the business side of things, including John's dealing in Dubai, including the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fights that just been signed up because John was CEO and founder of a company that was involved in boxing before and was involved with Mike personally, Golden Glove LLC. He's also been CEO of Global Sports International and the Sports and Entertainment Company. This pod is presented to you by podpire.com. If you want to start your own podcast, you can scale it at podpire.com. John, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Hey, Charles, thanks for having me on once again. It's always a pleasure to see you and hear what you're up to as well. We just had a little catch up for 10 minutes before jumping on here. So it's great to hear all the things that you're doing and that your team's doing between your micro financing stuff and your macro businesses. So, always interesting to hear what's going on. We're in the middle of our ski season right now. We started in Aspen, Colorado in January, and we're going to finish up in Taos, New Mexico. It's a great sustainable B Corp ski area owned by Louis Bacon, the billionaire. And there's been some interesting articles in the Wall Street Journal the last month about whether these billionaires buying up the ski areas are good for the ski industry or bad for the ski industry. I feel it's great for the ski industry because they bring a nice twist of individuality to these areas that are all getting acquired by mega corporations like Alterra and Vail. So it's great to see an area that keeps its traditional roots, and with Lewis's initiatives towards sustainability and those sorts of things. This area is a B Corp certified carbon neutral ski area, the only one in the world. So that's kind of cool. And that's where we're going to be next to host our world championships. We've got Olympic athletes from all over the world coming. At some of our earlier events, we had as many as 25 Olympians competing from 12 different nations. So we're kind of going from strength to strength on the racer side, in addition to increasing prize money at places like Taos. So when you talk about that, we are the World Pro Ski Tour, and the World Pro Ski Tour has always come from all the different racers coming from all over the world. As I mentioned, we have Austrians and Germans and Norwegians and Swedes and Americans, and our female champion is Canadian and our male champion is Swiss. So we've got athletes from all over the world, but we do want to expand our footprint to other places. And oddly enough, one of the places we've looked at racing is Dubai. So when Charles mentioned to me earlier, hey, what do you think about Tyson, fighting Jake Paul in Dubai or Saudi Arabia, or all the combat sports that's going on in the Middle East now? I said, well, I've been there promoting fights. I did a couple of glory events in Dubai. But we also looked at that ski area that's in the shopping mall, the indoor area, to host a World Pro Ski Tour event. One of our reps over there is working with the Dubai Sports Council to put on an alpine event in the Middle East, which would be unique and interesting. So not only is combat sports growing and expanding in places like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, but even these areas are looking at putting on winter sports events, ski events, and in these places. So it's been an interesting progression from falconing in the desert to creating snow and giant refrigerators and people skiing. And I don't think people realize the size of some of these indoor ski areas that they've built in the desert, and they are on the small side, but on the big enough side to host a World Pro Ski Tour event. So that's been kind of interesting.
So why would a billionaire buy a ski resort?
Well, I think it's a passion play on a couple of different levels. One, to make a profitable ski area, but often, in most of these cases that the Wall Street Journal mentioned, they were ski areas that, the person loved skiing at and, felt an affinity towards, and this is where they had gone on their ski vacations, and they wanted to make sure that the ski area was developed sustainability and in the right way, on one side. So, and then on the other side, can you take a ski area like that and keep it running as a profitable business, in addition to showing the world that you could, run it carbon neutral and sustainable. So that is, the wave of the future in some of these places. So, I think it's been not universally positive for the areas, because there's always, a fraction of people that are like, oh, the billionaires are showing up and kicking out the millionaires, and it can be hard for the local people. But on the other hand, if done correctly, it provides job opportunities locally in a proper fashion for the environment. And an individual is often more inclined to not look at the bottom line as much as a big public company, and do things that are better for the local population. If you look at some of the bigger companies, they're really watching the bottom line and watching the profits, and not as concerned about the impact on the community in, all of the different areas. If you've got a company that's running 50 ski areas around the world, they can't always be bothered with, what's going on environmentally in the local community at all 50 of them. But an individual owner can take a more hands-on approach and look at, how their actions impact things from the environmental side and from a local community side, and, keep the tradition of that area alive. So, I think it's cool. I'm more into the individual management of smaller operations and less of the cookie cutter approach to running ski areas in local communities. So.
And do you think it can be a profitable business to run a ski resort? Because yeah, there's no snow during summer. Like you can run mountain biking stuff, I guess, back then. But to me, it seems sort of a moat because there are only like so many mountains available to do skiing, right? And in key locations, let's say that you're near this big city. So it still seems like a very good business if you buy the right place, location.
Yeah. It's challenging like any other business, but yes, you do have a short window to make your money in the winter, and then you have what they call mud season in the spring and the fall, and then summer. If you're near a city and you're set up for mountain biking, you have the right service permits, or you have, the ownership of the land. That's why you see a lot of areas promoting summer business really hard. They've got the winter business, so they got to get people back in the summer. It's tough for everybody in those communities because they have, only a short season in the winter and a short season in the summer. But, there are many ways to promote it, between music festivals and sporting events and, recreational events and all that kind of stuff. You mentioned you were running a Spartan event of some sort, so you got to bring those events to fill the hotels. And, there are different profitable or profit center verticals in ski areas that include, you've got your mountain operations and you've got your real estate development. If that's left, many ski areas were initially started really to develop the real estate around them, just like a golf course. You build a golf course to sell the lots on the course. And if the course, is marginally profitable or break even, your profits can be made selling the real estate. Ski areas are the same. If you're trying to bring people into the community and you own a big parcel of real estate that you can subdivide into condos and homes, and the stories are obviously one by one, but some ski areas were started basically as that, and the skiing may be good or not good, but they were started almost as real estate developments closer to cities, so people had a place to go. We raced at an area called Granby Ranch 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and they wanted us to come because they wanted the exposure for their area. They had started out as a ski area with that sort of cookie cutter real estate development, lots of condos, lots of home lots. Prices are not high. It's not an Aspen. It's not a Vail. It's got a really good family ski area. But under a new ownership, after going through some financial challenges, they're like, okay, let's bring the World Pro Ski Tour here. Let's start an academy here. Let's host the United States freestyle team, become the official training area of that. Let's do all the things that need to be done to market our area to help drive those real estate prices, help bring people to the area. Because it doesn't happen in a vacuum. You can't just, build it and they will come every time. You've got to, as you learn in your business, you've got to promote it, you've got to market it, you've got to get it on television, you've got to have it be a place where the social media influencers come to make people aware of it. And then they show up and say, hey, this is a cool place and we want to, come here on our vacations and have a second home here. And it's affordable. The 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2,500 square foot home isn't $12 million like it is in Aspen. It's, reasonable price and great place for our family, but you got to get the word out. So there are ski areas like that as well. And we try and hit them all at the World Pro Ski Tour. We try and go to the Aspens of the world. We try and go to the Taoises of the world. And we try and, bring our form of racing to other smaller ski areas so we can expose it to people not only in Aspen, but in places like Granby Ranch.
And you're also looking at Dubai nowadays. Like, what other markets are exciting to you nowadays? Have you checked at Saudi as well and these places?
Yeah, Saudi is building a big ski area. They're building some indoor skiing and they're talking about outdoor skiing even in their new I think the Nemo development. They've got a really big development going on over there. In addition to becoming the fight capital of the world in Riyadh recently with all the big fights there. So yeah, the Middle East is certainly interesting if there's somebody who wants to partner with us and fund it, which is how you have to do business in those territories for sure. You need some local support and someone on your side to partner with and help you locally day to day. I mean, time zones are tough, and you need somebody that's on the ground there to understand the market and help you promote it. We want to take our tour to Europe. We have so many European racers. We've talked to people pre-COVID in China and Japan, and we want to do that as well. But again, our revenue sources are really sponsor and television, so we need some sponsors there. We've got a great group of sponsors in America, but they're mostly on the American side, and they're not as concerned about promotion in Europe, even with a television signal back to America. Because with our sponsors, they like to show up on site and they like to do sampling and they like to, talk to the local grocery stores and local bars and restaurants. Because we have companies like Jägermeister and Celsius and Mazda America and Tough Shed and a bunch of companies that do business in America. Celsius has become an interesting one, a huge success story under John Fieldly recently. They're leading their energy drink category, their fitness category, even over the likes of global juggernauts like Red Bull. When you go into a grocery store now in America, you see Celsius everywhere. And they're just starting their initiative into Europe with a sponsorship of the Ferrari Scuderia team and Lewis Hamilton. So that's pretty cool. They announced that a few weeks ago. So I think you're going to see a big initiative of Celsius into Europe, which they're one of our sponsors the last couple of years, and they're a great partner showing up at all of our events and doing sampling, putting cans in hands, and working with a couple of our racers, River Rodimus and Paula Molson and a few others. So we're looking at Celsius expanding into Europe, and maybe down the road we can do some events there, and they can partner with us over in Europe as well.
What are your goals for this year? What do you want to accomplish?
It's obviously a changing landscape, but right now we're in the middle of our season, so we want to get a bunch of big racers into Taos. We're cutting 2 Fox television shows there and a couple of Life in Between Gates shows, which is our Drive to Survive style syndicated television series. that delves into the lives of the racers in a little bit deeper fashion than just seeing what the results are on the race course. So we've got that going. Then we've got a year-end show that we're producing. So the goal is still to bring in one or two more sponsors to Taos, and then show up in Taos the end of this month, beginning of April, and put on a really good event. And then try and grow the tour for next year. Add another stop somewhere. As I said, it'd be great to go to Europe. It would be great to go to China, but it would also be great to add one or two races in the U.S. One of the things we've been doing, because the calendar is so full, is we're doing more races in less places. So every time we go to an area now, we try and do 4 races and create more television and more social media out of each visit. So we don't have to double down on airline tickets and hotel and everything. The more things you do in one place, the more efficient your operation is. If you're doing one race in one place, you show up, buy all the hotel rooms, set up the scaffolding, set up the TV cameras, bring in the commentators, all the stuff that costs a lot of money, and then you leave. But if you can amortize 3 or 4 or 5 races over that weekend, the cost per race definitely comes down. So you become a more efficient, sports promotion, if you will.
What are your thoughts on the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fights that's been announced recently?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one does. The guys that are working on it. I saw that Azim Spicer, who's Mike's brother-in-law, who I've worked with in the past on a few promotions, and said he's been working on putting that together for a couple of years, and finally got everybody to go with it. Jake has fought some somewhat accomplished fighters, Tyson Fury's brother and all that, who's had a decent record but hadn't fought a lot of established fighters. And Jake's been training hard and working hard, and he's probably not ready for prime time fighting Canelo Alvarez or anything, but fighting Mike Tyson, who is I don't know, it's got to be close to 60 years old now, if 56, 58 or something like that, but still strong as an ox, and training hard to stay as quick as you can at that age. So that'll be more of I think an exhibition, but nobody wants to get hit by Mike Tyson. So at any age, so Jake's got to train as he has been. Will it sell all the pay-per-views, 1 million pay-per-views like they're thinking? I don't know. I think that's sketchy. If you look at Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou crossover, it didn't quite attract the attention of the public like the McGregor Mayweather fight did. The first one, got all the attention and did really well. Fury Ngannou was tougher. From a financial perspective, I'm sure without the support of sponsors and the public fund of Saudi Arabia, don't think they sold what they anticipated in the pay-per-view. I haven't heard any numbers of Anthony Joshua versus Ngannou this past weekend. I watched it. I thought it was cool. It was a tough time-wise in the United States, when you're running in the middle of the afternoon I think it was on a Friday. That's a much harder time than a Saturday night pay-per-view in the US. And as we all know, the US is really the one country in the world with the pay-per-view tradition. And that's where most of the pay-per-view money comes out of, is the US. England is probably number 2 with, they've got a little bit of a pay-per-view tradition that they've established, but the numbers aren't as big as the US either, and as far as how many people watch and how many people you can, what you can charge for it over in Europe. So without the US, driving the pay-per-view, you lose a pretty big revenue source for a fight. Even when you watch what the UFC does out of Australia, in Japan, they still, drive those numbers into, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening to get the US pay-per-view revenue, keep that revenue up. So, yeah, I mean, it should be interesting to see how a 60-year-old Mike Tyson can do against, kind of middle of the road, non-established, high-level fighter. And, it's really, I think it falls under the entertainment side of the spectrum more than the high level competition side at this point. But Mike has 1 million followers or however many million, and as does Jake Paul. So they've got a big market to promote it to. Are these all people that will watch boxing, or are they just going to watch for entertainment value, or because they like Mike and like Jake? I don't know.
And do you think Riyadh has like potential to host some of the world's biggest sporting events as a city?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've developed it into that. It's becoming the Las Vegas of the Middle East, and they have certainly not hesitated to invest to bring over celebrities, and they've invested in facilities and hotels to make everyone comfortable when they get there, to entertain people at the level that they've used to being entertained at. How are they doing on revenue ticket sales? I don't think anybody knows. There's not like a big ticket buying population over there. So a lot of the people that I know that have gone to these events have been flown over by the promoters. But it does look great on TV, and it looks special. And I think if their goal is to promote that city, they're doing it. I mean, everybody in the world knows about it now, and everybody knows that sort of become the capital of the fight world, just like they're doing in golf, and just like they're doing in, starting in car racing. And, they're really building their, profile, just like Dubai did a couple of years ago. And if you look at where those cities were, 15 years ago, the old part of Dubai versus, where they are now with the Dubai, the biggest, their second tallest building in the world. And so, it's pretty incredible what you can do with some investment and some passionate people to develop those sorts of things.
What's the next big sports in your opinion? Like, what do you see picking up like big traction in terms of popularity?
Well, it's that stuff's pretty hard to predict. I wouldn't have predicted that pickleball would be, on national television in the United States right now, and having more momentum on the participatory side than skiing. Whether it will hold the trajectory is the next question. When you look at some of the leagues, like the one you're competing in, Spartan or Tough Mudder, everybody gets really excited about it for a while, and then it levels out. We saw the same thing in snow sports. When snowboarding was growing, it was an amazing trajectory, and then it leveled out, and some of the people sort of morphed back into becoming skiers, doing both. So pickleball is going to grow really fast because it started at ground zero. Then will it flatten out and people will start watching tennis again? We'll see how it goes. So there's one right now that is growing in leaps and bounds, at least in the United States. And then other European sports similar, like paddle tennis, is people are trying to promote those really hard. And there was an initiative in beach tennis a couple of years ago. So it all remains to be seen where that's going to go. In our world, these combat sports events are pretty big one-offs. The crossover sports between like Nagano and Tyson Fury, and Anthony Joshua. Those are become sort of big spectator sports. And I think WWE is still killing it, and UFC is doing great. Their new combined entity that went public, revenue there is increasing all the time. And football was growing this year, kind of hit a plateau a couple years ago. And now with Taylor Swift dating, football stars, they got a whole new group of fans that they've created. So, it just goes on and on, changes a little bit every year, but it's still the strong survive, and the people that are putting money into it and working hard to promote it are the ones that are reaping the rewards and benefits of fans and television.
But is it like, what is that about? Like money, if we check LIV and PGA, is it like injecting the most money as possible and trying to make something as big as possible, gather the best athletes and, let them do their thing?
I mean, that is, that's what makes sports is the popularity of the athletes. It's the big names. And, the Live Tour is interesting. Are they going to be able to get their investment back? Do they even care? I mean, are they there to promote Saudi Arabia and start bringing big events there? So, the initial investment is a drop in the bucket when it comes to, thinking 20, 30 years down the road. Obviously, those tournaments were not surviving on the cash flow of the tournaments; they're surviving on the investment. So it's the initial investment, not day-to-day cash flow of those things. A lot of us still have to make sure that our revenue is greater than our expenses to try and keep our leagues involved. And right now, since that's a startup, they're relying on the big cash infusion from the Saudi Public Investment Funds. So, how it's going to go in the future. Well, I think those guys have pretty deep pockets, and if they start controlling the sport and start capitalizing on the revenue from the PGA Tour, which was making money, and everybody combines, you might have a juggernaut for golf. We'll see what they can put together once they get through the politics of all that. But hey, I've got a call at 9 o'clock in a couple of minutes, so I'm
Where can
gonna
people find out
move
more
on.
about you, John?
Yeah, and we'll do it again. It's always a pleasure. And this thing came up kind of late, and it is with the other side of the world, so I'm gonna jump.
Sure. And where can people find out more about you?
Well, World Pro Ski Tour, worldproskitour.com. Thank you for asking. And we're running our World Championships in Taos, New Mexico, March 27th through the 30th. It's on Fox Sports to follow up with Life in Between Gates. That's our Drive to Survive style reality docuseries, and that's on all over the place. So hopefully we'll see you there, or you'll see us. And as always, looking forward to doing it again, Charles.